I started kicking myself about midway in. I thought, okay, I'm going to wind up dead in a ditch somewhere.
My impression of Saudi Arabia has been framed by the people that have the gold-plated toilets on their own 747s.
I mean, I'm 7 feet tall, so I'm already getting a lot of stares in the metro. And then, if I sat next to the woman, I don't know, I might get shanked or something. I don't know. So,
welcome to Bourbon and Rum, the podcast dedicated to civil conversation. I'm Kent. I like rum, and I'm from the left side of the aisle.
And I'm Kyle. I like bourbon. I tend to be a little more conservative. We're brothers talking politics over bourbon and rum.
What are you drinking?
Well, I'm drinking my daily drinker now of E.H. Taylor here. It's so easy to find now. I got like 4 bottles on the shelf, so I can start drinking this. And my local liquor store, this stuff, you pay over $100 a bottle for this, and now my local liquor store has got like 4 cases. They've had sitting there for like 6 months. Nobody's buying it now, because you can get it. And it's just weird how that is. All this allocated stuff that everybody sought after, when it's available, it's like, who cares?
You have a daily drinker. I think that's just beautiful. I got a different. This is a new Venezuelan rum to me. I'm loading up on the Venezuelan rum and crude oil. So any liquids that I can store around the house, aged rum and crude oil.
I've been talking about you running for office, and they're in need of a new leader. So there's that.
So anyway, well, good. We missed a week. You've been traveling.
Yeah, I had a couple trade shows, one in Dubai and one in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Been to Dubai a few times and in Abu Dhabi, the UAE, so pretty familiar with that. But, I was in the military once upon a time, but I never wound up deploying to the desert, so I'd never been to Saudi. I knew a lot of guys that had been over this way. So I'd never been there before, and interesting experience. It was, it's not quite as much fun as Dubai. I mean, they got booze in Dubai. It's a little more happening. But it's also kind of neat to be an observer there because they're kind of undergoing a bit of a metamorphosis. Up until a few years ago, it was really closed down. It was really hard to get a visa there. Women still all had to wear a hijab all the time. Now women don't have to wear that. And, I got a visa in 5 minutes. It's a lot easier for you to travel over there. I still felt a little, and maybe I was projecting it, but, like I didn't want to do the podcast from there. And, whenever I was on the phone with anybody, I was like, oh, it's great here. I love it. Like, I don't know. Were they really listening to my phone? I didn't, the
probably.
Police, who knows? But it's, I guess, we were talking about topics, and, I might have mentioned I was in Europe a few months ago, and I had a Uber driver, and he was talking about how he was a really good guy. We had a good conversation. I think I talked about it in the podcast, but he was lamenting how everybody's becoming Americanized. There's not many cultures you can go to anymore that don't have, they don't want to look like America. And I thought about it in Saudi Arabia because, if you're looking for the last bastion of the world that's not Americanized, that's now again, and this is where I'd love to have some dialogue. Like, what is Americanized? They've put a bunch of investment there. So they've got, MBS has this, they call it Project 2030, and I don't know what it means, but I don't know if it's like Project 2025. I think it's a little different. This is more like infrastructure and stuff. They're building.
Is this the Line City? Is that part of it?
That? It's like all this investment. And what's, the city, I was in Riyadh, and it's mostly like one story buildings everywhere, 1-2 story buildings, and it's this sprawl all across the desert. But you've got these skyscrapers poking up, and like from one end to the other, it's a big city, geography wise, but there's just like skyscrapers hitting the sky out of these little neighborhoods of these 1-story homes, and then they've on the north side near the airport, there's this massive infrastructure going underway. Like you can look at it from a distance and you see those big cranes, and there's got to be 100 of them, and they're going to be building shopping malls and houses and resorts. But even with the infrastructure so far, it's very different than American society. I mean, the buildings, there's some similarity. They put a subway in now. Well, there's like a metro, and it runs, I wrote it from north to south. But for instance, I'm on the metro, and it was jam-packed full of people, and you could have heard a pin drop in there. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, I wish I spoke Arabic, and I could, hey, did you ever hear about that one about the Saudi Arabia guy and the UAE guy? Like, could you throw out some joke that would get them laughing? Probably not. They'd probably be pissed if you tried to make a joke. It's just like very quiet. And, the women don't wear a hijab, but I noticed on the subway or on the metro, like a seat would free up next to a woman, and there'd be 5 guys standing there, and nobody sits down next to a woman. Like nobody sits unless, you're married to them. And, but I saw one guy get in, and there were 2 and then 1. Well, on the 2, there was a seat next to the woman. And on the 1, there was a woman. And this guy points at the woman in the 1 to the seat next to the woman, and she hops in next to the woman. He sits on his own. So it's very like, and I thought about it a couple times because I'd been riding on this metro, and I'd been standing up for 30, 40 minutes, and I was like, well, there's a seat there. I wonder, I'd probably get a few. I'm already getting a lot. I mean, I'm 7 feet tall, so I'm already getting a lot of stairs in the metro. And then, if I sat next to the woman, I don't know, I might get shanked or something. I don't know. So, but
no, you'd probably be fine. It's what would happen to her that would be the worry.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's, and on top of that, they've got the prayers that play 5 times a day. And I mean, they're blaring over the loudspeaker. So it's not they're making investment and they're making some changes, but it's very much, it's a way different place, certainly than any place I've ever been, I think.
Like, you're in a different country.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I don't have much of a mental image of normal Saudi people. Like, my whole perception is off of what you see of like the royal family, and
that's the other crazy part that I found really interesting. Like, because when you go to UAE and Dubai, you're seeing purple Ferraris drive around because like 10% of the population are the locals, and I don't know that they're all loaded, but there's a lot of money there, and so all you're seeing is glitz and glamour. Saudi Arabia, I think the indigenous population is more like 60 or 70%. So it's a big chunk, and it's a lot of middle class. And that was what I found really fascinating. Like the Uber drivers are all Saudi locals. Well, in UAE, the Emiratis, the locals, they're not driving Ubers. It's all Indian, Pakistani, somebody else. But in Saudi, a lot of the people are much more middle class, like not super well off. And, I was reading about it a little bit. There's some, the government dishes off some money to the local populace, but it's through things like healthcare. They do healthcare and they get college, and there's a lot of people working for the government. So, you think our government's non-productive. I mean, they got a lot of yahoos working for the government that probably are, probably not doing a lot, but that's how they make money. But it's not, they're not all loaded. Nobody.
But not like a handout, like you're,
right.
You've got you get a check every month, like, and I do get the impression that that's kind of how it works in places like Dubai or the Emirates, that you've got, if you're part of the part of the ruling, like the native people of that country, like you get like an annuity out of the stuff. Am I right on that? Isn't that how it works?
I think so. I think there's some of that, and I reading up on it, it doesn't sound like all of the folks in the Emirates are loaded, but they're much better off than they are in a place like Saudi. Like Saudi, the local, I mean, the royals are well off, but the run-of-the-mill folks aren't that well off. And that was eye-opening to me, because every other Saudi, I mean, I just remember when I was in the military, I went to a training course in San Antonio, and it was like a 3-month course, and I remember they sent some guy from the Saudi military to the course, and I noticed he's driving a Lexus, and I'm like, well, you know, did you get that at the rental car place? Like, no, I just bought it. You know, I figured I'd just buy it and I'd just sell it after 3 months. You know, and I thought, okay, yeah, must be doing okay.
You know, this answers something for me though that's been a curiosity of mine. Because again, my impression of Saudi Arabia has been framed by the people that have the gold-plated toilets on their own 747s, you know? And I never really thought about a large middle or lower income populace. But the, you know, so many of the hijackers from 9/11 were Saudi.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't think that their actions can all be explained by religious zeal. I think there had to have been some nihilism and, you know, nothing left to live for. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it kind of puzzled me. How would that, like, how did these people feel so disaffected in this fabulously wealthy country? But if the wealth doesn't necessarily permeate down to everybody, then you probably do have a underprivileged class that is, yeah,
and it's I mean, people were friendly. The first day I got there, I got to the airport, and I did like a rookie tourist mistake that I started kicking myself about midway in, and I thought, okay, I'm going to wind up dead in a ditch somewhere, because you come into the airport and I couldn't find a taxi stand, and Uber wasn't working, and so you get all those guys like, hey, I'll take you where you want to go. And I listened to one of these guys. Like, that is like the dumbest rookie mistake traveling. And next thing you know, I'm following this guy into the parking garage to get to his personal vehicle. But nice guy. And we started slinging it back and forth on Google Translate. But, you know, he's driving this old beat-up car. I mean, it's not like it's a lot different than I thought. Like you said, I'm thinking... then I started talking to him, and I'm like, well, he must not be from here. I'm like, where are you from? And he's like, here. Like, you know, he's like, oh, well, of course I'm from here, you know, and so it was funny. Like, oh, I figured you were from one of the other countries. But I guess the question I got for you, though, is I thought about that, I mean, it felt very different than being in America. I mean, yeah, they have Wingstop there, they have Burger King, they have Dunkin' Donuts, but it still feels way different, and not necessarily in the best way. You know, like there are elements of it I wasn't a huge fan of, but it was different. What does it mean to Americanize a city, though? Does that mean everybody speaks English? Does that mean people go to McDonald's? I mean, yeah, I guess if the bar is, do they go and use American brands? Well, then, I mean, unless you get in the jungles someplace, you're probably not going to get away from that, right?
Yeah, I don't know. And I would make a big distinction. I think most people would probably class the American footprint that you're talking about largely in cultural terms, right? Like, I think this is true, that people watch our television reruns all the way around the world with things dubbed into them, and you know, our stars are big stars there. You know, I think that's more pervasive than necessary. I think we do a much better job of exporting our cinema and music than we do our values of democracy.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, people love the Coca-Cola and the Wingstop, but that's different than having leadership in the world in terms of human rights and other things like that. And how much do I personally see myself reflected in Hollywood movies and the entertainment industry in general, or I recognize those brands and those labels, but I don't know that that's me. So it's kind of a nuanced question in a way, right?
Well, and I think one aspect is the democratization or the freedom. And I mean, clearly Saudi Arabia, I mean, I may have been projecting some of that, but it's certainly not a do as you please type of place. Even the UAE, I mean, they make it sound like, oh, it's, I always think it's like Vegas except for the secret police. It's like, it's still a little, I wouldn't get out of hand. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And I guess part of what I wanted to explore in the podcast too is then, okay, and you get a place like Iran, and we think of this government as this super oppressive, religious extremism, but what I've read about what the people think of the government, like when the Shah was in charge, he was like the rich royalty figure. And so the whole movement in the revolution in the late 70s, they brought in this ideologue, and okay, we're going to have a Sharia law, we're going to have this religious leader in charge, but then over time, at least in the view of the population, the Ayatollah is just like another Shah. It's like somebody else in charge, other than now they're much more repressive. And so then it becomes like, okay, you want to get rid of that. I mean, I'm not sitting here advocating for the Ayatollah to stay in power, but at the same time, it's like, what's it going to look like when he leaves? Because if it's, well, hey, we want it to be like Saudi Arabia, well, okay. I mean, maybe the government's a little friendlier to the West, but it's not any freer in Saudi Arabia than it is in Iran, to the people. Right. So what does that look like? And what's success in Iran?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because, it's kind of recent development that you've had a Republican movement against foreign adventuring, right? Like, I mean, if you look back to the George Bush presidency, it was very active, and I don't think everything they did was wrong. So, I mean, I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but it was a very...
You're either for us or you're against us.
Yeah, and willing to swing the big stick to do what we want. Okay. And, that has consequences, and it brings consequences down upon us. But there are also consequences to, isolationism. And so, but I do think this is one of those areas where party lines have flipped a lot in 20 years, say, or I don't know. I'm picking an arbitrary time, but I think of the MAGA impulse as very non-interventionist. Stay home, America first. We're willing to throw NATO under the bus, and and it's weird to hear Democrats being, kind of advocating for more interventionist policies,
or for more defense budget and things like that. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Well, I guess where I was going with it is it's like, I think Bush had this view that we can create a democracy in Afghanistan. We can create a functioning democracy in Iraq. And, is that really realistic? I mean, it'd be great, and yes, it's a good thing for societies when they listen to their people and they're not dictatorial assholes. But is that? It's not necessarily is it good or bad. Is it viable in that region?
Yeah.
I just don't know that it is, and I feel like hey, we want to get rid of the Ayatollah and replace him with somebody. Well, who? I mean, it's not going to turn into at best, it's going to be Saudi Arabia, which, okay, I mean, I guess if they're friendly to us, you don't care. But is that what we want? We just want a government that is nice to us? Or do we really care about the people? Because if you care about the people, you wouldn't want that. You'd want something
And
freer.
would you rather, I mean, let's, use an abstraction a little bit. Would you rather have an ally like Saudi Arabia that has a piss-poor record on human rights, but is well aligned with America and doesn't give us any trouble, and we can use the air bases, and they're our buddies? Or would you rather have a genuine functioning democracy in Iran of a nation? We looked at this one time, I can't remember, it's 100 million people. America is not going to win popularity contests in that country. And so what if they get human rights and popular sovereignty and free and open elections, and it doesn't look good for us? Are we committed to the values, or are we committed to self-interest? And heretofore, I think, since the Cold War, we have largely seen those as the same. Spreading human rights and free society and advancing America's strategic interest. We're kind of one and the same. I'm not sure you'd find that today.
Well, and then I think part of the view of why we support Israel, because if you think about it, of all the Middle East, it is the only functioning, stable democracy. I mean, there's no place else that, I mean, again, some of the Gulf states are stable, but it's one ruthless bastard in charge, but he's just nice to most people,
Right. Yeah, so what happens when those interests diverge? And are we really committed to democracy, or are we committed to our own interests? And, I think it's a tough call for a leader. You're elected by, and you have an obligation to look out for your country's best interests. But I look at what we've done over the years, what the CIA has done in destabilizing governments all over South America. Those chickens come back to roost on us. It's not an accident that Venezuela is a disaster. And do you know what I mean? It's not like we never touched this thing. We've had hands in this stuff through the years, and those unintended consequences that you speak of have shown up on us. So I tend to not be in favor of very adventurous foreign policy.
Well, but I guess the question, I mean, are these places, this may sound bad, but I mean, are these places screwed up because we tinkered with them, or are they just screwed up because they're not going to get there? Like, again, Middle East, the only functioning democracy is a country of transplants, of people that came there from someplace else. So is it logical to assume, no matter what you do, that any Middle Eastern country is ever going to have a functioning democracy, or is it a cultural aspect that they are as authoritarian as they are?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would. I mean, do you want democracy for Iran?
Well,
really?
It'd be great.
I don't know.
Speaking of going and bringing on international territories to the United States, did you see in the Wall Street Journal about how Alberta, the province of Alberta, is about to do? They want to do a secession vote to secede from Canada because they're sick of
Really?
Yeah, they're much more conservative than the Ottawa politicians. They don't want to be part of the U.S. They want to be their own country.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
Well, I also saw that Canada gave a open door to Michigan if Michigan wanted to go Canadian.
Hey, nice.
which,
Well, if you were in the UP, they are almost already Canadian, right? I mean,
well, yeah, and at least if you were all Canada, you could open the $6 billion bridge that you've built.
oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. I tend to I think where you're going, I think I tend to agree. I am not really in favor of handing people democracy because I don't think they can keep it if they can't claim it. And
Yeah.
this is, admittedly, this is probably unreasonable, but because we threw off the mantle of the British, thanks in part to the entire French Navy parked off of Yorktown, which cut the British off. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we completely bootstrapped ourselves. But in general, I don't think it has worked out well for us to go around fomenting revolution. I think in those cases, if people aren't ready to fight for it, then they are not ready to keep democracy. I think if that's kind of the gist of your question about Iran, could they be a functioning democracy? Well, maybe, but I don't think they could be if we deposed the current leader or had something to do with it, because I think it would never have legitimacy.
Yeah. Well, and then maybe a deeper question is, what about the cultural elements make it incompatible with democracy, and why are democracies typically more successful in Judeo-Christian cultures?
I'm not sure I'm going to grant the premise of that question.
Europe is not exactly a religious stronghold, but the background is for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I don't want to write off all of Asia.
But there is also a lot of Judeo-Christian influence in Asia too. In modern Asia.
Yeah. I don't know. Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Singapore. I mean, these are pretty functional democratic nations.
I think a place like Singapore is pretty totalitarian level. I mean, it's a nice place to be, but they do a lot of things there that a democracy wouldn't necessarily tolerate as far as human rights and some of those things. I mean, I love going there, but it's don't chew gum or you're going to get smacked with a cane. I don't know. Yeah, it's just interesting to me that how many, I don't want to make this a religious thing, but like how many Muslim countries have functioning democracies?
I'm trying to think. I mean, would you put Pakistan in that category? Would you put Bangladesh, Indonesia? I don't know. I don't know by whose standards, would those count as democracies, but they don't strike me as brutal dictatorships per se, so maybe not all the way to, what we might hope for.
I think, at least, a quick review, I mean, quasi-democracies would be, you consider flawed democracies, reasonably functioning with competitive elections, but weak institutions, a lot of corruption, media restrictions, would be things like Indonesia, Malaysia, Tunisia, Senegal, Albania. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not making some. I'm not trying to go down the path of belittling or demonizing a particular religion. It's just there is a cultural aspect of, I guess back to like the Saudi example of blaring the prayer bit over the loudspeaker. Like, that would not be tolerated by a lot of cultures. But there, it's like, there is a sense of like the collective is more important than your individual rights. So getting a culture like that to wrap their head around, individual freedoms, it seems like a stretch.
This is going to sound argumentative, and I don't mean it to be that way.
No, that's fine.
But, again, thinking about Americanization and culture, just when you said that about playing the prayers over the minarets, and my experience with that was more like Jordan and Egypt, which are the same, right? You get that same thing. Do you think that people feel like Christmas is run down their throat when we start with the Christmas carols in October? I don't mean that to sound like I'm just being difficult, but you say cultures wouldn't accept that, but we have pretty widespread adoption of at least the symbolism of Christianity in this country.
If they play "O Come All Ye Faithful" at the decibel level that those prayers were playing in Riyadh, then I agree with you 100%. There would be problems if that happened.
No, I don't mean to sound argumentative. I think all of those things, it's really hard to compare because every time you draw on a comparison, you're starting from your chair and your view of what you're seeing. And that was one of the things too. I tried to, in this little trip that I was on too, like, I don't want to be like, one of the things I really loved about it is I get so pissed when I'm in a foreign country, and I might have mentioned this before, and then some idiot from America is over here. Like, no, I want to be the one American that's here. I don't want to be surrounded by these other jackasses, talking about American stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be in a foreign culture and fully in it. So I love that. I mean, being on that metro, like, there wasn't a single American on there, and I loved it because I could really soak in the culture. So I don't want to make this sound like I'm disparaging it. It's just a question. I just don't know that it would work. Like, even if you said, like, hey, we're going to get rid of the royal family and we're going to put in elections, like, I don't know that people could wrap their head around it. It's just such a different thing than what they're used to. Yeah. Well, again, and I say these things not to be argumentative, but don't factor out the fact that
we're supposed to argue. We're supposed to argue a little bit here too.
But the especially the Middle East, man, the role of Islam is an undeniable factor. Don't argue with that at all. The aftermath of British and French adventurism all over the Middle East for 150 years, that's not a non-factor.
Right.
I don't know how you weigh, you know what I mean? But like, how much of that is...
You look at the borders in those countries, like, well, it's very interesting. They're all straight lines. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, I mean, what does that do to the prospects of a functioning democracy arising?
Yeah.
It's also a time, for all of my, liberalism, I am still an American exceptionalist, and I candidly, I don't think it's because God picked us. It might be because we picked God, and moreover, it is not that we are entitled to special status in human history, but because the values that we've embraced, we occupy a special place in human history.
Yeah.
With the start of the American Revolution and all that has led to in these democracies to varying degrees of success all around the world. So yeah, I do believe that it's special here, but I tend to look at other places and not think, be like John F. Kennedy. Some people look at the Trump-labeled S-hole countries and ask why, and I look at them and wonder, why not? Why can't we turn that around? You know, like what is it a ironclad that you can't get out of, or is it?
Yeah.
Is
I
it
think that was the
combination
Bush
of history.
I think that was the Bush doctrine, is that, all people really want to be free. And so, anybody could have a democracy if they tasted it and they had a pathway. And at an individual level, it's hard to argue that most people would want that. But I just don't know that it's something that is important to them. Like maybe they're okay with the collective good. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't, let's put it this way. I was, again, not trying to sound like I was an expert because I went someplace for 5 days, but it wasn't a place either that I wanted to ask people their opinions. I mean, I'd love to know their opinions, but it didn't seem wise to, hey, I'm doing a little poll.
So what do you take from this? We kind of rambled around it. I think we more or less kind of agree on maybe not on the antecedents and why, but kind of the what and how it stands.
Well,
I think we agree.
We've kind of been talking around it. I kind of like where you were going, though. Do we really want, that might be the $1 million question. Do we really want these people to all have functioning democracies, or we just want them to be nice to us? Because if all we want them to be nice is to be nice to us, well then UAE and Oman and Saudi Arabia and all the Gulf countries, they're in. None of them are democracies, but they're nice to us. So if that's all we want, that's a different objective than, hey, we want the world to be free. And I personally think that's all we want in Iran. I think if the Ayatollah died tomorrow and the brother Ayatollah popped up and said, I love Hollywood and I love America, okay, well, keep butchering your people by the millions. We don't care as long as you're nice to us. Pragmatically, I think that's probably a likelier scenario.
Yeah. So should we be honest about that? If that's the way that we look at that, should we be explicit about that in our foreign policy doctrine and say, number one, our job is the safety and security of the United States of America. Number two is to create conditions of a world market that supports the functioning of our economy. And number three, we believe in human rights and freedom and access to democratic institutions and government, but not 3 over 1, or it's got to be in that order. And,
but I think also,
I don't know, at least you're honest then.
But I think it is honest in the sense that, we're for human rights, but we're not willing to go to war with every country that has a shitty human rights record, else we'd be at war with 150 countries.
Right. With people, I think that's part of what we saw in World War II, and the reason it was such a tenuous victory. Really, because totalitarian states don't have the problems that democracies do when it comes to declaring war on somebody.
Right.
You got internal mechanisms to handle protests. You suppress things that you don't like, and Hitler and Tojo did not have they didn't have to balance. They didn't have to answer to a populace.
Yeah.
Like our leader, the Brits, the House of Commons stands for election, and here the president stands for, you've got, it's, maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe long term, if you could suffer it, if you could tolerate the known pain that we would deal with if more governments and more people on this earth were free and in democratic way. Do we believe that? I believe that people want world peace. It's kind of down the list of Maslow's hierarchy, though, right? I want world peace, but I want food first.
Yeah.
I want world peace, but I want clothing and shelter. I want those first. But I do want world peace. And so if we can help support democracies, again, back to the thing,
but then
does a plebiscite in Iran look good for us? No.
But you're equating democracy to peace. We don't necessarily need democracy. We just need people being nice to us and agreeing with our foreign policy. I mean, that's what...
Well, I guess that's my point.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
No, I guess that's my point, though, that doesn't it, over the long haul, again, what we had checks and balances in World War II that Hitler did not. And it made it harder to win the war. And in a way, functioning democracies don't usually go to war with each other very often. I guess, is that true? I mean, I'm saying this out loud.
Yeah, that's the part I guess I wonder.
I don't know, what's the record on that?
Is the world more peaceful if everybody's a democracy, or is the world more peaceful if everybody agrees?
I kind of think, I'm talking out both sides of my mouth because I kind of argued against this earlier, but honestly, if you could tolerate the getting through to it, which would not be easy, the more democracies, the better the world is, I think, because people would prefer peace. What's the case law? How many times since...
There's a theory, Kent.
I don't know.
That's
what's the sense from?
Democratic peace theory, DPT. One of the most researched and debated concepts in international relations. This theory, tracing back to Immanuel Kant's 1795 essay Perpetual Peace, argues that mature liberal democracies are highly unlikely to go to war with one another due to shared norms, institutional constraints, and economic interdependence. Empirical studies overwhelmingly show that...
So how's that played out?
Democracies rarely, if ever, fight full-scale wars against each other. Interesting. But there'd be limitations.
Since World War II, what wars have there been between advanced democracies? The Falklands? Does Argentina even count? I don't know.
The War of 1812? Were the British a democracy?
Yeah.
Were they? Yeah.
Yeah, they were. Well,
yeah.
The most notable one of all of them, the mother of all wars between stable advanced democracies would have been 1860 to 1865, when the Union and the Confederacy went at it.
Yeah, they bring up a few near misses and exceptions. India-Pakistan conflict, the Cod Wars, I don't know what that was, but pretty rare.
It could, with all respect to the deceased and veterans of the Cod Wars, I don't know that it stands on the same bookshelf as the War of 1812, right. The Civil War.
The Cod Wars, I never heard of that. The Cod Wars is primarily Iceland and the UK fighting over fishing rights in the North Atlantic waters surrounding Iceland from the 50s to the 70s. Interesting. Yeah, not much, though. That's true.
It's an interesting kind of a thought experiment to think about it. I love, and it's been sort of a random circling of this, but that essential question, you want friends or you want people that think like you?
Yeah.
Because probably people that think like you aren't always going to get along.
Right.
But over the long haul, do we think that it works out?
Yeah. Well, and I think we see disagreement with Europe and the United States, but I don't really think anybody's going to war with each other. I mean,
Well, I mean,
I don't think we'll go to war over Greece.
Several days away from our troops being sent to Greenland and being met with the dozens of
the dog sleds.
EU advisors who were there.
We should go to Greenland.
Else,
That's what we should do, Kent. We should go broadcast a podcast live from Greenland. That'd be great.
That would be interesting.
Be a good trip.
That would be interesting. Just, travel's good for you. We were in Miami this week. We had a Uber driver who was from Cuba, and that was kind of interesting,
Did you get into some slang with him?
Asked, like, not really. He was a really nice guy, but it was kind of like, are your family okay? And he was like, yeah, mom and dad are still there, but I think they're all right. And but everybody else in the family has moved to Miami or New Jersey.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I should let you go. It's been good talking.
Yeah, same.
Good conversation. Kind of hypothetical.
Exploring some things, so.
It'd be cool. I'd love to hear from some of our listeners. Like, what are topics that are on your minds?
Yeah.
So reach out and write us. If you know one of us personally, ping us. If you're someone that we've just acquired you along the way, take a look at the Bourbon and Rum Podcast website. Take a look at show notes. Send us an email and let us know what you think we ought to be talking about.
Come up with some off-the-wall weird question. Try to stump us. That would be a lot of fun.
It would.
It'd be easy.
Hey, thanks for joining us on this episode of Bourbon and Rum Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. Remember to subscribe on your favorite platform and leave us a review. Your feedback helps us keep the good spirits flowing.
And we invite you to join this conversation. Follow us on our Facebook page. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you want to hear.
And until next time, cheers.